Oh hey, it's Emily, and today I'm going to be checking in on some goals and projects that I had at the beginning of the year. I'll link the video I'm referring to down below, and that video directs you to everything that I'm going to be talking about, so I might just copy and paste some of the text from that video to make sure that I'm linking stuff below if I can remember to do that, but I'll be referring to that video and the things in that. So I'm just going to go down the list and just in general check in on how I'm going with some of these goals. I'll come back to a handful of them with a little bit more detail. So the first one was just to keep up with my TBR shelf, which I feel like I've done a pretty good job of. I am bringing a lot onto my TBR shelf, but I'm also reading them pretty quickly, so I feel like I'm cycling through books pretty well. The next thing was to see how many of the Buzzwordathon words I could read. I'll come back to this one. The third thing was to keep up with the Catch Up Book Club, which I have not done a great job at. They have finished Realm of the Elderling, which I still need to keep going with, and completing the third trilogy and then moving on to the other two series. But they've moved on to the First Law World, which I said I would try to keep up with as they were reading them and have not done so. The next thing I wanted to focus on, I'm looking at my tablet for notes. The next thing I wanted to keep up with was the Magical Readathon, like the year-long side adventure, which I'll come back to. The next thing was to try to participate in a couple of my friends' TBR games. So Ken from Expedition Through Pages and Amy from A-Star Reads both have a super fun ways for their viewers to participate in their TBR game, which is super fun. And so I'll come back to this in just a minute. The next thing I wanted to focus on was Brandon Sanderson Reads. So I haven't done a great job at this. I've read one of the secret projects. So he wrote 4 secret projects in kind of the main part of lockdown, and there was a huge Kickstarter, whatever, you probably had heard about that, but I've read the first one of those. I have the next 2 that I need to read. I also wanted to focus on the Stormlight Archives because the 5th one and the end of kind of the first story arc was supposed to be published in November of this year, but it has actually been pushed back to November of next year. So I have a bit more time on that one. So, but hopefully I can at least read maybe the first one by the end of the year. We'll see. But I do definitely want to catch up on the next 2 Secret Project books. I actually just recently got them in the mail, actually a couple of weeks apart. The second one took a long time to get to me, so I actually just recently got both of them, so I don't feel too bad about that one. The next thing I wanted to keep up with was some climate nonfiction. So specifically I wanted to start a meetup group for environmental nonfiction and read the nonfiction that I set aside for that group, and I have done that. There's definitely more on my list that I would like to read, but I have been doing what I wanted to with that goal. And then the next and final one was to keep up with Book of the Month and Fairy Loot books, which I have done a really great job of, especially with Book of the Month. I think I'm actually completely caught up on Book of the Month books, and I have a handful of Fairy Loot ones to get to, so I've done a pretty good job at that. So we'll come back to a few of the ones that I was pushing off, so I'm going to go to a different set of notes here. So as far as my friends' TBR games, for Kim's, I completely just kept forgetting to tell her which of the prompts I had fulfilled during the month, and so that one unfortunately was kind of a bust. Even though I actually did fulfill a decent portion of the prompts, I just didn't submit them on time. But I have for July, so we're turning over a new leaf with that one. For Amy's, I've accomplished a few of them. So for January it was Family Pick, and I read Goddess in the Machine, which is something that my dad had first mentioned to me actually. In February it was Cover Color, and the focus was to have purple on the cover, and I read Blood Marked by Tracy Deonn, which has quite a bit of purple on the cover. I didn't fulfill the one for March, For April, it was to randomize some things that you're excited about, which was also a prompt for the Magical Readathon, so I'll put Georgie all along for that one. And then in May, the prompt was to buy a thrift book and have the title start with the letter K, which I did not do. I did read a thrift book where the author's name, both the first and last one, started with K. That is Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan. But the prompt was for the title, not the author, to start with K, so, you know. But I got close. And then there wasn't a prompt for June. I actually have fulfilled July's, which was to read in middle grade. I read Arusha, the first book in the Arusha series, and absolutely adored it. So, a little bit of a mixed bag there for that one. The next one I wanted to focus on was the Magical Readathon. And there actually have been, for every month, I'm not going to go through each specific one. In the video that I reference, you can find the Google Drive that has the picture that I'm referring to, but I actually have done, because the prompts are kind of, well, some of them are pretty specific, but for every month I've been able to actually fulfill quite a few of the options. So basically there are two branches of prompts, and I've actually been following along, and for most of them I've been able to fulfill the prompts for every month. So I actually have quite a few options of where I could end up. So basically you kind of follow a track and it'll lead to one ultimate destination at the end of the year, but I'm trying to keep my options as open as possible. So, for start a series or end a series in January, I did both. I both started some series and ended one. Actually ended a couple of series. And in February, I did read something with a forest on the cover, which was one of them. Or for the other branch, there was one to have nothing but words on the title, which I did accomplish. For March, I had both a book over 500 pages as well as a book with a 4.3 star rating, Foul Lady Fortune and Trust the Emerald Sea, respectively. April, there was a break to do the spring equinox. May, I haven't looked at the books I read, but I'm sure I read read a book that ended on an even page number and ended on an odd page number. There's no way with how many books I read that I didn't accomplish both. In June, I read a book I already owned, including In the Lives of Puppets and some others. I also acquired some, including Not the Witch You Wed, and read that. And then on the other branch, there was read a book with a prologue and one with an author's note, which, again, as many books as I read and as many different genres as I read, I'm sure I accomplished that. I need to go back and look and have one in particular to note there, but I haven't done that yet, and I'm trying to get a lot done today, so I know I accomplished that. Anyway, so I'm doing pretty good on that, and I feel like there's a track in both sides, both branches of the prompts, where I would be able to have accomplished the prompts along the way. So I'm hoping I'll have some options come the end of the year to count which place I end up or which animal companion I end up with. Anyway, the next one I wanted to come back to was Buzzwordathon. So I haven't done well on this one recently, but January was Life or Death, or words associated with that. And I didn't have one with life and death in particular, but Fenley Donovan is Killing It is the closest I came. February is verbs, and Saving Us or The Writing Retreat would count for that. March is Secret. I didn't read a book with the word secret in the title. April is an emotion word, and I don't think I read one with an emotion. Well, actually, no, that's not true. Loathe to Love You. I'm double checking now. Loath to Love You. I read that one in April, so I did accomplish that one. May was a flavor, and I did read Meet Me at the Cupcake Cafe, which is like I think the closest I can come, where cupcakes definitely have different flavors, but the title itself doesn't have a flavor in the title. June is Other. I can't remember if this was to literally have the word other in the title, which I did not do. I would need to double check the parameters of that one to make sure that that was what she was talking about. And July was weather related words, which I don't think so far. It's towards the end of July, so technically I could still read a bit more, but I don't think I read anything that has anything in the title that is at all related to weather. But anyway, so most of them I've accomplished, some of them I haven't. So, you know, a mixed bag here, but I wanted to just check in on how some of my goals were going. I also am planning today to be filming the mid-year book freakout tag, which I think I'll probably try to post before this one. I have some more filming to do today as well, including getting ready for the August round of the Magical Readathon. So I have a lot to get done today, so I will just end it here and say thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe for more bookish content, and I will leave everything linked down below that I was referring to. Let me know how you're doing on your reading goals, if you had any, or if there are any other goals you want to share about and how you're doing with them this year, then leave that as well. I would love to know. And yeah, thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye everyone.